untuk berjaya. Generasi penerus perlulah berwawasan dengan melengkapkan diri bagi menghadapi cabaran-cabaran mendatang. Di antara cabaran itu ialah memelihara keamanan, suatu kurnia daripada Allah yang pada sekian lamanya telah kita nikmati bersama-sama. Dengan adanya keamanan tersebut, maka dapatlah kita menjalani kehidupan ini dengan penuh selesa, serta dapat juga menyusun dan melaksanakan pelbagai rancangan kemajuan, sehingga kemudiannya menghasilkan buah yang lazat berupa kemakmuran dan kesejahteraan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening. I'm Azrul Bakar and welcome to News at 10, the top stories tonight. His Majesty the Sultan Inang Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam and the President of the Republic of the Philippines discussed bilateral, regional and international issues during a bilateral meeting in conjunction with His Majesty's state visit to the Republic. Brunei Darussalam and the Republic of the Philippines signed cooperation agreements on culture and industry development and halal promotion. His Majesty Sultan Haji Hassan Al Bolkiah Muizzuddin Wad Daulah Ibn Almarhum Sultan Haji Omar Ali Saifuddin Saadul Khairi Waddin Sultan Inang di Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam today attended the official opening welcoming ceremony in honor of His Majesty's state visit to the Republic of the Philippines. His Majesty the Sultan Inang di Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam first attended a wreath-laying ceremony held at the Rizal Monument in Rizal Park, Manila. Upon arrival at the Rizal Monument, His Majesty was greeted by His Excellency Salvador Medialdea, Executive Secretary of the Republic of the Philippines. This was followed by the national anthems of Brunei Darussalam and the Republic of the Philippines. His Majesty then laid a wreath at the monument. The official welcoming ceremony in honor of His Majesty the Sultan Inang di Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam state visit to the Republic of the Philippines was held at Malacañang Palace, Manila. Upon arrival at the palace grounds, His Majesty was welcomed by His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte, President of the Republic of the Philippines. His Majesty proceeded to the dais to receive the Royal Guard of Honor, followed by the national anthems of both countries and a 21-gun salute. His Majesty then inspected the Royal Guard of Honor mounted by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Diplomatic relations between Brunei Darussalam and the Republic of the Philippines was established in January 1984. Since then, the two countries enjoy broadening cooperation in various areas such as trade, investment, defense, agriculture, energy, education and health. His Majesty was later introduced to state dignitaries of the Republic of the Philippines, followed by the introduction of Brunei Darussalam's delegation members to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Ready, masayang kaway. 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3.
His Majesty also signed the visitors' book at the reception hall of Malacañang Palace. Both leaders then proceeded to the Aguinaldo State Dining Room for a bilateral meeting. During the meeting, both leaders discussed bilateral issues as well as regional and international matters of mutual interest. His Majesty Natita, during the meeting, said he was impressed by the rapid development in the Philippines.
It's good to be back in the Philippines once again. Since my arrival, I have seen many economic activities which show the rapid development taking place in your country. I also admire the personal emphasis you have given in ensuring that such progress benefits and improves the livelihood of your people.
Meanwhile, the President of the Philippines, in his welcoming address, touched on the 50th anniversary of ASEAN establishment and the Golden Jubilee celebration of His Majesty's accession to the throne, regarded as a very significant to ASEAN.
Marks the 50th anniversary of His Majesty's ascension to the throne. As a pillar of ASEAN, it is fitting that we also honor and express our gratitude to His Majesty for his significant contributions to the building of a strong ASEAN.
After the meeting, His Majesty and His Excellency witnessed a signing ceremony of cooperation agreements at the reception hall. Signing the agreement on cultural cooperation on behalf of the government of His Majesty, the Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam, was Yang Berhormat Bhin Rangkaya Pekerma Dewa Datuk Sri Setia Lim Chok Seng, Minister at the Prime Minister's Office and Second Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, whilst the government of the Republic of the Philippines was represented by Mr. Virgilio S. Almario, Chairperson of the National Commission for Culture and Arts. While signing the Memorandum of Understanding on Halal Industry and Halal Development and Promotion was Yang Berhormat Bhin Datuk Singh Menteri Retired Colonel Datuk Sri Setia Dr. Awang Haji Muhammad Yasmin bin Haji Omar, Minister of Energy and Industry at the Prime Minister's Office, while the Government of the Republic of the Philippines was represented by His Excellency Ramon Lopez, Secretary of Trade and Industry.
Ceremony. May we request everyone to please remain in the room while we usher His Majesty and the President to the holding room. Thank you.
Meanwhile, in a joint media conference, His Majesty expressed pleasure to have the opportunity to visit the Republic of the Philippines again to further strengthen the close bilateral relations. His Majesty Natita also said Brunei Darussalam has agreed to further strengthen economic and trade cooperations with the Republic of the Philippines.
We agreed to explore opportunities in the emerging global market for halal products and services. On the halal industry, we are interested to develop a partnership with the Philippines for investment and the production of halal products. On energy, we agreed to further enhance cooperation by exploring potential downstream and upstream activities. We also look forward to our future collaboration in addressing issues on drugs. We believe that both sides will benefit from the exchanges of expertise and best practices in this area. Close partners in ASEAN, we extend our full support for the Philippines ASEAN chairmanship and look forward to a successful year under your leadership. We will continue working closely, particularly as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of ASEAN this year. We will take this opportunity to reflect on our past achievements and share our views on the way forward for the future. At the same time, we also look forward to further opportunities for closer cooperation under the BIM IAGA. As envisioned for 2025, it is important for us to develop a resilient and competitive sub-region. I'm confident that under your chairmanship, we will be able to achieve our common goals for BIM IAGA.
Promote the values.
Meanwhile, the President of the Philippines in a media conference expressed appreciation for the signing of the agreement on cooperation in culture and halal industry products and services.
Industry and halal products and services. These positive steps in the right direction. They provide a framework for us to work even more closely. Of course, I express my thanks to His Majesty for the gracious hosting of Filipinos in Brunei. They are living symbols of friendship between our people and the special care and concern of His Majesty. I look forward and to secure the blessings of all as ASEAN, and His Majesty's support for the chairmanship of ASEAN is most crucial.
Religious functions marking Isra Mi'raj continue to be held by government departments and agencies. Details next. First is excerpt of His Majesty's Dita. The sign of love from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ for his followers is shown by the description of his experience during his journey from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa in Baitul Maqdis, Palestine, and his journey from Baitul Maqdis to Sidratul Muntaha. This was among the contents of a special talk held in conjunction with the ceremony to commemorate the event of Isra and Mi'raj for the Prime Minister's office and departments under it this afternoon. A special talk titled Sayang Nabi Kepada Umat, or the Prophet's Love for His Followers, was delivered by Awang Isham bin Ismail, a lecturer from the Islamic Dawah Center, who also touched on the special Shariat the Prophet received during the historic event of his ascension, that is, the commandment of the daily 5 prayers. Present at the talk was Yang Berhormat Pihin Orang Kaya Sri Lela Datuk Sri Setia Awang Haji Abdul Rahman bin Datuk Setia Haji Muhammad Taib, Speaker of the Legislative Council. Also present were Datuk Paduka Awang Haji Hamdan bin Haji Abu Bakar, Acting Minister of Defence. Yang Berhormat Datin Sri Paduka Haji Hayati binti Pihin Orang Kaya Shah Bandar, Datuk Sri Paduka Haji Muhammad Saleh, Attorney General, and Datuk Paduka Awang Haji Muhammad Roslan bin Haji Muhammad Daud, Deputy Minister at the Prime Minister's Office. The ceremony was organised jointly by the Legislative Council Department and the National Security Committee Secretariat. The ceremony aimed to further strengthen relations among staff of the Prime Minister's Office and departments under it, apart from commemorating the Isra and Mi'raj of the great Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Clean, honest, trustworthy and responsible towards work are among the work ethics that should be implemented among civil service staff. This was among the contents of a special talk held in conjunction with the Isra and Mi'raj celebration for the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports this afternoon. Present was Yang Berhormat Pihin Datuk Laila Raja, Retired Major General Datuk Paduka Sri Haji Awang Halbi bin Haji Muhammad Yusof, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports. The event was enlivened with a talk titled Ikhtibar Peristiwa Isra Mi'raj dari Sudut Etika Kerja Perkhidmatan Awam, delivered by Awang Haji Fansuri Syarimi alias Mansur bin Muhammad Ali, a lecturer from the Islamic Dawah Center.
Berwawasan untuk menjadikannya ketiga tidak ada teknologi yang canggih.
The event coincided with a presentation of certificates of appreciation to the retirees and staff of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports by the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports. Also present were Datin Paduka Dr. Hajah Nurlela binti Datuk Paduka Haji Abdul Jalil and Awang Haji Nur Jusmin bin Haji Abdul Samad, Permanent Secretaries of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports.
Dayang Hajah Rosia binti Haji Jaludin dan Dayang Nursia.
Iman or faith is the greatest gift bestowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to mankind. But Muslims are required to practice their belief physically to prove their faith and love towards Allah the Almighty. This was among the contents of a special talk held in conjunction with the Isra Miraj celebration for the Ministry of Development this afternoon. The event began with the Al-Quran reading competition participated by 3 male and 2 female readers. Awang Haji Muhammad Edi Huzaimi bin Haji Mat Yasin of Technical Services Department, Public Works Department, and Dayang Ratinah binti Hidup of the Survey Department, Ministry of Development, emerged champions in their respective categories of the Musabaqah. Prizes were presented by Datuk Paduka Awang Haji Suhaimi bin Haji Ghaffar, Acting Minister of Development. Also present were Awang Haji Lutfi bin Haji Abdullah and Awang Haji Marzuki bin Haji Mohsin, Permanent Secretaries of the Ministry of Development, as well as Dayan Dr. Nur Imtihan bin Haji Abdul Razak, Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Development. The event coincided with the talk delivered by Dayan Nur Hayati bin Haji Abdul Rahman, Religious Development Assistant Officer at the Islamic Dawah Center. Dayan Nur Hayati further explained that Isra Miraj is also a test to see how strong one's faith is. Lessons from the Isra and Miraj event can shape one's individuality as well as strengthen the religious faith of Muslims in general and students in particular towards achieving the status of excellent and devoted individuals. Benefits from the great event was analysed in a student special forum held this morning in conjunction with the Isra Miraj celebration organised by the Sri Begawan Religious Teachers University College, Kupu SB. The forum titled Iman Teguh Akidah Kukuh or Strong Faith Secures Religious Belief was conducted by 3 panelists comprising Kupu SB undergraduates. The forum shared the practice of 5 salat or prayers daily and faithfully can strengthen the religious faith and akidah of a Muslim. Present at the forum was Dr. Haji Adnan bin Haji Basab, Acting Rais of Kupu SB. The event was organised by the Student Affairs Section with the Students' Representative Council of Kupu SB. Among the objectives were to glorify the celebration of major Islamic events and commemorate Isra Miraj that showed the greatness of Allah the Almighty. Stay tuned for more news after this.
Kami ini menelpon Berita untuk memberitahu yang Berita telah memenangi hadiah sebanyak RM10,000.
Tipunya tu?
Untuk mengambil hadiah ini, kami memerlukan beberapa maklumat daripada Berita sebagai pengesahan.
Mana ada tu?
Apa nama panu Berita sama nombor bank akaun Berita untuk kami transfer duit ini?
Ini adalah satu penipuan. Jangan sesekali memberikan maklumat peribadi anda kepada orang yang tidak dikenali.
Wow! Welcome to Pizza Hut. Dapatkan wow deals dari Pizza Hut. Dapatkan pan pizza serendah RM5 hanya untuk bawa balik dan makan di restoran sahaja. Masa adalah terhad.
Peratus dibuat dari daun teh asli, bukan dari ekstrak seperti yang lain. Rasakan perbezaan teh hijau yang sebenar. Beralih ke Poka, jenama nombor 1 di Singapura.
Wow! 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 Welcome to Pizza Hut. Dapatkan wow deals dari Pizza Hut. Dapatkan pan pizza serendah RM5 hanya untuk bawa balik dan makan di restoran sahaja. Masa adalah terhad.
Dayang Siti Khadijah binti Muhammad Asnawi emerged champion the Brunei Muara District Level Storytelling Contest 2017 this morning. The pupil from the Dato' Ratna Haji Muhammad Jafar Primary School in Kiarong told a story titled Ratapan Anak Tiri, or the Cries of a Stepchild. Ten participants aged between 8 and 11 years took part in the contest. The contest, an annual project at the Library Section Language and Literature Bureau, aimed to cultivate reading among children and to use stories as a source of their imagination and inspiration to generate creativity during storytelling and have confidence in public speaking. Present was Yang Berhormat Awang Naim bin Haji Khamis, member of the Legislative Council, who is oleh penghulu Mukim Kota Batu. The Public Service Department, Prime Minister's Office, hereby informs that His Majesty the Sultan Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam has consented for the appointment of Dr. Awang Nur Farizal bin Osman, Senior Administrative Officer at the Public Service Department, to be promoted as the Director of Research and Planning at the Public Service Department, Prime Minister's Office, effective from the 15th of April 2017. Radio Brunei Service of the Radio Television Brunei Department, RTB, celebrates its 60th anniversary this year. In conjunction with the celebration, a reading of Surah Yasin at Tahlil ceremony was held this morning for the late parents of His Majesty the Sultan Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam, Almarhum Sultan Haji Omar Ali Saifuddin Saadul Khairiwaddin and Almarhumah Tuli Raja Isteri Pengiran Anak Damit. The ceremony was held at the Royal Mausoleum. The reading of Tahlil was led by Awang Haji Hanafiah bin Haji Mahmud, a Mosque Affairs Department officer. Awang Haji Muhammad Sufian bin Haji Bungsu, the director of RTB, was present. Radio Brunei service consists of 5 channels, namely National FM, Pilihan FM, Harmony FM, Pelangi FM and Nur Islam. In line with the current development, Radio Brunei continues to serve listeners among the community with a variety of programs that cater to their taste and expectations. Several methods are implemented to facilitate the public to contribute to the Brunei Darussalam Mosque Construction Fund. Among them, the wage cuts of $2 for every Muslim civil servant as of this June. To disseminate more information on the salary deduction, the Mosque Affairs Department continues its roadshow at the Sultan Haji Hasna Bolkiah Tahfiz Al-Quran Institute. The roadshow held this morning explained that the automatic salary deduction of $2 from every Muslim full-time civil servant is voluntary and not mandatory. Every individual has the option whether to participate or not.
Sumbangan permintaan macam ini amatlah dibanggakan kerana tadi mengikut titah ke bawah duli bagi sama-sama berbuat sumbangan dan juga untuk memberi katani pahala dan juga untuk katani sama-sama menyumbang kepada akhirat.
Semua orang kira warga Kementerian Agama, bukan saja Kementerian Agama, Perkhidmatan Awam juga untuk sama-sama menabung. Okey, dengan adanya tabungan ni untuk tadi sama-sama beramal untuk akhirat nanti.
Actually, it's a very good opportunities pulang for, especially for women like us. Macam usually kadang-kadang kami macam jarang ke masjid kan, so it's a very good opportunities lah for us. Macam kalau bini-bini kadang-kadang jarang kan ke masjid atau so adanya automatic ane, so kami macam it's very easy for us lah macam tu untuk menderma as.
To improve teachers' professionalism as leaders in an organization or a school was among the objectives of the Education Faculty of the Sri Begawan Religious Teachers University College, Kupu SB, in organizing a workshop on teacher skill. The workshop was held this morning at the University College in Jalan Raja Isteri Pengiran Anak Soleha. 20 people comprising head teachers, education officers and religious teachers attended a two-day workshop. Several topics were presented throughout the workshop, including public speaking, effective communication, Islamic counseling, as well as a school mission and vision to achieve Berwawasan 2035. According to Dr. Zulkifli bin Haji Zakaria, Dean of Kupu SB's Faculty of Education, the workshop was important in helping teachers develop their personality and skill towards achieving high social position, as well as high standards of teaching and learning in class. The Takmir Committee members of the Kampong Batu Apoy Mosque with the cooperation of the Temburong District Mosque Affairs Office continued its Halakah Zikir ceremony at the Kampong Batu Apoy Mosque this morning. The event aimed to propagate the Islamic Shiar as well as strengthen relations among mosque officers and village residents. The event was filled with a mass Sunat Hajat prayer and recital of Surah Yasin, as well as special prayer led by Awang Shamsuddin bin Haji Azahari, the mosque's imam. The event coincided with the Doa Kesyukuran and Appreciation Ceremony for Awang Haji Adam bin Haji Tengah, a former mosque affairs officer. A look at the Nisab Zakat or tithe rates for cash and property. Moving on to the foreign exchange rates between the Brunei dollar and some international and regional currencies. Moving on to world news and the top stories tonight. North Korea appealed to Southeast Asian countries for support in its row with the US to prevent what it warned could be a nuclear holocaust. According to a letter obtained by AFP, North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho warned the situation on the Korean peninsula was reaching the brink of war because of Washington's actions. Foreign Minister Ri urged the ASEAN chief to inform the 10-nation organization's foreign ministers about the grave situation on the peninsula and give them a proper proposal, while criticizing at length US-South Korean military exercises. Tensions have soared in the region in recent weeks in the wake of a series of North Korean missile tests and tough rhetoric from Washington on the isolated nation's rogue weapons program. Delegates are expected to discuss the situation on the peninsula. A draft of ASEAN's end-of-summit chairman's statement obtained this week by AFP had apportioned the Korean peninsula still blank, meaning the leaders had yet to agree on what to say on the issue. Venezuela said it is quitting the Organization of American States in anger at pressure from the bloc over the government's handling of a deadly political crisis. The announcement raised international tension over Venezuela, where unrest has left 28 people dead this month. Echoed by the US and European Union, the OAS has led an international chorus of concern over the economic and political chaos in the major oil-exporting country. Bristling at the pressure, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Delcy Rodriguez said the government would launch a 2-year process to pull out of the Washington-based regional diplomatic grouping. Earlier, the Permanent Council of the 35-nation OAS agreed to hold a meeting of their foreign ministers to discuss the crisis, a decision Venezuela had forewarned would prompt it to exit. Venezuela has suffered an economic collapse fueled by a plunge in international prices for its crucial oil exports.
Sin la tutela de ninguno de los que están presentes acá, de nadie.
A Hamas official said the ruling party will not be cowed by threatened funding cuts, signaling escalating tensions between the militants and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. The renewed push to regain a foothold in Gaza comes ahead of President Abbas's meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House next week. Abbas has threatened to take unprecedented financial steps to force Hamas to cede control in Gaza, a territory it seized from his forces in 2007. Reconciliation attempts between rival governments in the West Bank and Gaza have failed. The president is expected to stop payments to the Gaza Strip and impose a gradual freeze on key supplies such as power, fuel and medicine if the Hamas government does not hand over the power. But Hamas deputy leader Khalil al-Hayya suggested his organization is not willing to hand over governance of the area and stressed that they will do what it takes to protect their people.
وأنا أقول بكل وضوح على الجميع أن يتحمل المسؤولية بدءا من الاحتلال وغير الاحتلال.
Egypt, the world's largest importer of wheat, expects to buy about 3.8 million tons from local farmers while also cracking down on grain smuggling. In the months leading up to the wheat harvest, state grain buyer GASC has been purchasing wheat from abroad at a breakneck clip, which traders have attributed to higher than usual bread consumption by Egyptians hit by soaring inflation. As the local wheat harvest season gets underway, Egypt's Minister of Supply, Ali Mousselhi, said that there was about 2.6 months' worth of wheat in Egypt's strategic reserves, and he expects to buy about 3.8 million tons from local farmers. Egypt, the world's largest importer of the grain, aims to buy about 4 to 4.5 million tons of wheat from farmers this season, while cracking down on smuggling that has cost the country hundreds of millions of dollars in recent years. Local wheat harvest begins around mid-April and runs through July. The North African country has been tightening its policing local wheat procurement to prevent fraud. More than 2 million of the 5 million tons of wheat bought by the government last year may have existed only on paper, according to grain industry experts and lawmakers who investigated the matter. GSC purchased about 5.6 million tons of wheat during the 2016-2017 season, which ends with the start of the local harvest as nearly 25% leap from roughly 4.5 million purchased last year. Sports news coming up. Singapore League, Brunei DPM MFC are now in a less comfortable position and need to work hard to avoid sinking further in the league. Tomorrow evening, Brunei DPM MFC continue their challenge campaign before their own supporters. Brunei DPM MFC meet visiting Tampines Rovers. The match will kick off at 8:15 p.m. at the Hassan Al Bolkiah National Stadium. Meanwhile, another match will take place between Home United and Geylang International. DST Super League Football 2017, Kota Rangers recorded a comfortable win when they defeated Mangalite FC 6-0 in last night's match held at the track and field of the Tutong Sports Complex. The first half saw Kota Rangers in red dominating the game and scoring 2 goals through Muhammad Shazwi Mohim and Muhammad Abu Bakar Mahari. In the second half, Muhammad Abu Bakar scored 2 more goals for Kota Rangers, who had a hat-trick at the 50th and 69th before netting the 5th goal for the team, the 83rd. Kota Rangers scored their 6th goal through Muhammad Fazil Ismail Hamdani in the 87th minute. In the English Premier League, Arsenal moved within 4 points of the Champions League places with a 1-0 victory over Leicester. Tottenham also enjoyed an 8-match winning run in the league after edging past Crystal Palace 1-0. Meanwhile, a 16-match winless run stretching over 4 months ended for Middlesbrough after Martin de Roon put the ball through goalkeeper Jordan Pickford's legs after 8 minutes. We bring you the weather forecast next. The general local weather condition for the next 24 hours is expected to be partly cloudy with showers or thunder showers over a few areas. Tonight, the weather is expected to be partly cloudy with showers mainly over inland areas. Sea is slight at 0.5 to 1 meter, while wind is from southwest at 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. Tomorrow morning, the weather will be partly cloudy with showers over coastal areas in the early morning. Sea state and wind is similar as tonight. And the afternoon will be partly cloudy for most areas, while thunder showers are expected over inland areas in the Temburong, Tutong and Blythe districts. Sea is slight at 0.5 to 1 meter, while wind is from northwest at 10 to 25 kilometers per hour. Wallahu a'lam bis-sawab. A look at the forecast for Brunei Darussalam for the next 3 days and the weather for some of the main cities around the world. Finally, let's reflect on the hadith or tradition of Prophet Muhammad SAW as narrated by Al-Imam Al-Hakim. Allah the Almighty delays punishment for all sins except sins against one's parents, and verily Allah hastens punishment related to such sins while the sinner is living and on death's threshold. And that concludes News at 10 for this evening. Good night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.